Now he's recording.
Hello, Craigathy.
Gregory.
I stand by what I said.
I'll let you. Not that offended by it. It's only Craig. Not like it's Alistair or anything.
No, good old Alistair.
Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the Watch It Bro podcast. I am Tristan.
And I am Marshall.
And today we're going to be taking a look at Secondhand Lions.
This is a
Also,
movie. Oh, this is a movie I haven't seen before.
yeah, this is a movie Marshall never saw before, and I was pretty sure he hadn't. But I was going to say episode 13, that officially puts us at halfway through season 1.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that means we're hitting the 6-month mark.
I was doing math. I'm like 52 weeks. No. I know there's 26 Yeah, we're good.
Yep. But yeah, this is one Marshall had never seen before, which I was pretty sure he hadn't, so which made it a great pick since he got me with Waterworld on that one.
I swore you had seen Waterworld before. I didn't think you had seen Airheads before.
And I hadn't. It was like bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into the specs of this movie and then jump on in.
Okay.
All right, we have Secondhand Lions. It was released September 19th, 2003. We are in the new millennium for the first time.
Woo!
It was written and directed by Tim McCanless, who has pretty much no credits except this, a couple small things, and a concept writing credit, 195 episodes of Smallville,
Okay.
which I don't know what that means.
I mean, is he the guy? Concept writing credit. Does that mean he's the guy like this episode Lex Luthor should do something? Go. And they're like, okay, we got you. Just coming
That's
up
what
with
I
the
think.
concept?
The episode ideas, and then someone else writes it for him?
Maybe.
Okay.
The idea man.
It's starring Michael Caine, Robert Duvall, Haley Joel Osment, who you might know from The Sixth Sense if you've ever seen that, or his little Forrest Gump.
Forrest
Nikki
Gump Jr.
Forrest Gump
Not-
Jr.
Not young Forrest Gump.
Not young Forrest Gump, right? Forrest Gump Jr. Nikki Katt and Kira Sedgwick, who is married to the great Kevin Bacon,
Yes,
and who also starred on The Closer.
she did. She was the closer.
Was The Closer. I feel like the specs and the introduction to the movie is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't say the things that Michael Caine was in. He was Scrooge in the Muppet Christmas Carol, and he was also in Now You See Me, the magic movie with Jesse Eisenberg, and Robert Duvall was in movies like
Yeah?
I don't know, I blanked on it.
There's a lot of silence there.
He's been in a lot of things. I can't pull one.
Yeah, well, and that's why I didn't really do that with Michael Caine and Robert Duvall, is because they're such big names. I just kind of take it as a given that people know their work and know who they are.
Very true. Lonesome Dove, Open Range, The Godfather. There we go.
There you go. There's some Robert Duvall stuff for you.
Yes.
And then Nikki Katt, he's bit parts here and there. Nothing really stood out to me. Had a guest spot as Arthur on Friends in '96, which no idea who Arthur was on Friends.
I'm racking my brain. 96 would be season 3.
Season 3, yeah. Yeah, season 3 or season 4, I believe. Or 2 and 3? No, 3 and 4, yeah.
Like the back half of 3 and the first half of 4.
Right. Yeah, and every
Right.
time I kept picturing Arthur Spooner from King of Queens, and I know that's not right because that's Jerry Stiller.
Yeah. No. It's the last half of 2, the first half of 3.
495, 95, yep. Last half of 2, first half of 3.
Arthur. Well, that's gonna bother me.
Well,
I know
look
we
it
have
up.
our phones, but I didn't want to just dwell on this. What was his name again?
Nikki Katt. And I thought seeing him in the movie would kick it into place, but it didn't. Oh, he was one of the bullies. He was the bully that stole Chandler's hat.
Oh. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't recognize him.
Did not realize they had names.
Neither did I. So that's probably why we didn't go, oh, yeah, Arthur.
Yeah. Pivot. But there's our
That
friend's reference.
There was a terrific waste of time.
Arthur,
Anyway.
he was the bully that took Chandler's hat and Friends. You use whatever you think is funnier.
I might just keep it all. That's hilarious. Depending on how long this episode ends up being.
Yeah. So the movie was a little over 2 hours. No, it was an hour and 43 minutes.
Yeah, it was about 110 minutes.
Yeah. No. Yeah. An hour and 43 minutes on 100. Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. This is one of the first ones that actually doesn't have opening credits. We just kind of get a black smoky screen
It's because we're
with,
out of the 90s. That's when they stopped doing that.
yeah, but it starts with a black smoky screen. You hear the sound of an airplane propeller, and then so the smoke kind of wafts into Secondhand Lions, and it opens up to two really old men flying an airplane.
Having the time of their life.
Oh yeah, they're having a blast of it, and you see there's a cop sleeping as they're approaching the highway, and they come down and they land on the highway, go under the overpass. Radar clocks them at 120 miles per hour, and they take back off and fly away. And the cop wakes up and says, "Oh, what?" And starts chasing them down as they're flying over some fields and whatnot. And then we cut to some guy drawing comic books,
Yeah.
and the phone rings, and he answers, and Walter, we got some bad news about your uncles, Walter, and then they use that to segue into young Walter, played by Haley Joel Osment, being called by his mother and saying, "I have some good news. You're gonna go live with your uncles." And it's him and his mom in the car. I'm guessing this takes place mid-50s or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, mid-50s sounds about right.
And yeah, the mother's played by Kira Sedgwick, and she is just awful.
She is.
And he also feels that she is just awful. And she basically she basically tells him that she's gonna drop him off at his uncle's house while she goes and follows a man to, where was it, San Antonio, to go to college and date this guy. And when she gets things settled and gets her degree, then she's gonna come back and get him. Or when she gets settled, she's gonna come get him in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And he's already wised up to it, and he's like, "You're an only child. I know what uncles are." And
Yeah.
she fires back with, "They're my mom's brothers. They're your great uncles. They disappeared 40 years ago, and they just showed up. And I hear they have millions of dollars stashed away. So you should probably try to figure out where they have it," which
Yeah.
is pretty much all you need to know about the mom at this point. Is she's got an ulterior motive, and she's money hungry.
Yes. Yes. She's like, I got this thing to do. You should check on that money. And bye.
Basically. And we find out that there's lots of stories floating around about how the uncles got the money, but the point that anybody really cares about is the fact that they have the money.
Right.
And so
Right.
they pull up the driveway, and Walter's like, "Hey, should we have called first?" And the mom's like, "Oh, everyone likes a surprise." And so they stop at the house, they get out, they're bombarded by animals.
Yep.
No one in sight.
Several dogs and a pig.
Yeah, several dogs and a pig, and they go for a walk, and they find the uncles down at the little watering hole fishing with shotguns.
Yep.
And they clearly are not the type to like surprises, given their reaction when they show up, and they're both just kind of standing in the water staring. And I'm just gonna name them now. Robert Duvall is Hub, and Michael Caine is Garth. And Hub leans to Garth and goes, "Hey, did you order a people pleaser?"
These two have good chemistry together. That's
Yeah, it's
they're
very.
great actors. And Michael Caine's English accent's pretty, or American accent's pretty good.
If you'd have told me he was English, or if you would have told me he was American, I would have believed it.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
good.
Sometimes
But
it sounds weird, but a lot of time that he did good on this.
yeah, I didn't notice anything weird with it. But yeah, so she introduces herself, and the uncles figure out who she is, and the gist of it is we don't want your kid here either. He's a weenie. And they
Yeah, they dig into him pretty good about being a being a wuss and not being worth being around, and
Yeah, and I mean
they
they haven't said a word to the kid yet.
yeah,
And
they haven't didn't pull
they
any
got him.
punches either. He's just right there.
He's
They're
right
like, we're
there.
gonna
He's sitting on the front porch. They go into the house, I guess, to be polite, and he gets cornered by a pig and has no idea it's a pig.
right.
He's like,
Fun
"Oh,
fact:
not."
the fun fact during the filming, the pig attacked him on site on set.
The pig attacked Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah, Yeah, no one was worried about the pig having a handler or a trainer. He was just there, and then the pig attacked him.
Pigs are mean.
They can be.
Yeah, they are not friendly.
They don't like being made into delicious foods.
Apparently, apparently not. But did it attack him in the beginning of filming or at the end of filming?
Didn't say when.
Uh, that's hilarious. Well, somehow she convinces the uncles that the kids stay in whether they like it or not, and she takes off down the road and leaves him behind. And there's time passing, and they're all just kind of sitting on the porch, waiting for time to go by. It's pretty much all they got
Yep.
going on in their lives. And he's like, "Hey, will we be able to hear the phone from out here if Mom calls?" And Guard's like, "We don't have a phone." Okay, well, can I go inside and watch television? Once again, no television. He's like, well, what do you guys do for fun? And perfect timing, a car comes up the driveway. They all grab their guns, which hysterical. The salesman gets out and they immediately open fire. And he gets right back in and takes off. And that leads us kind of into a montage of salesmen showing up and
Yes.
getting shooed off with shotgun
Aggression.
fire. Yeah. Aggression and hostility. Which,
Yeah.
okay, so the second car that comes up, it's the blue car, and the guy gets out, and I swear that guy was the public defender in My Cousin Vinny. But I didn't look it up, and so I'm going to take a minute to do so now.
The cousin Vinny.
The guy that stutters.
Yeah.
And I don't remember his
Austin,
name either.
Austin Pendleton
Oh, yeah.
is his name.
Let's see. There's television roles. Nope, it would be a film role, though. And no, it wasn't him. Okay. So anyway, we get into a montage of salesmen being chased off with shotguns and hostility
Yes.
all day. And that's fun.
It seems fun.
I was entertained by it.
Yeah.
And then that pretty much lasts all day. And then we're getting ready for the first night there. They let the kid know, hey, you sleep up in the tower. And we get to see how much of a weenie this kid is. Because he's terrified to go up the stairs.
Yeah, Hub might have been a little right about him.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But he sucks it up and goes.
Yep.
And
He might be a weenie, but he's adaptable.
he is adaptable. That is true. And he gets up there, and it's very, very clear that no one has been up in that tower for a long time because he throws his suitcase down on that bed, and just a puff of smoke, the dust just flies off of it. I mean, you can see there's a layer on that comforter. And so he's kind of he pokes around there, and he sees this chest. And I think at this point he's looking for the money because he doesn't know these guys from Adam, and all he wants is stability with his mom at this point. And so yeah, he's looking for the stash of money at this point and sees the chest, but it's locked up tight. And he very conveniently finds the key that gets knocked off of one of the
Nightstand?
bedpost.
Oh.
I believe it was tied to the bedpost, taped to the bedpost. I don't know.
I mean,
He
if it's
knocks
just
into something.
if it's just them living there, why hide the key? You just lock it. Key goes here.
Yeah. So he finds it and opens up. He opens it up, and it's filled with sand. And then he starts digging through the sand and pulls out a picture frame of Emmanuelle Bagier.
Okay.
Yes, I looked up how to pronounce it.
Nice.
And she was Mia in 2.5 Men, Dr. Bryce in Smallville, and had a supporting role in 40 Days and 40 Nights.
There's that Smallville connection too.
Yeah,
With the writer
Smallville
director.
connection. Yep. And as he's looking at the picture, he hears the front door open, and you get Hub walking out in his nightshirt with a plunger.
Yes.
And so curiously, he follows him down, and he follows Hub down to the water where he goes. It's like a little pond that they have on their own property.
Yeah, they've got their own pond or small lake or really pond for the size.
Yeah, but it's got fish in it. So did they put the fish there, or?
Yeah, probably seeded it.
Yeah. So he watches Hub sword fight with a plunger
Yeah.
while he's asleep. And
Yeah.
he talks.
He seems a little, I don't want to say out of it, but yeah, he's sleepwalking at this point.
Yeah. And then we cut to the next morning, and turns out Walter had slept on the dirt with the animals.
Yeah, he fell asleep watching his uncle.
Yep. So he runs back into the house to have breakfast and starts asking questions. And the uncles are not too keen on answering them.
Nope.
They're just kind of
And
giving short one-word answers.
they didn't ask questions about why he was outside.
No, no, they don't care. This kid is their whole goal is to keep him alive, and that's pretty much it
Yep.
at this point. There are no love lost between them at right now. He's asking questions. You guys disappeared for 40 years. Where were you? And basically all he gets out of it is they were in Africa for most of that time.
Yeah.
And then Robert Duvall, Hub pretty
Uh,
much shuts down question time, and we move along to
at this point, too, I mean, we haven't been with them too long, but you can tell Hub is probably the older brother and is more gruff.
yeah.
And
And they never really establish who's older and who's younger.
yeah, and then Michael Caine, whose name I heard, but I can't remember for the life of me.
Garth,
Garth.
yeah.
Uh, they said Hub's name more, and that stuck. I think.
Yeah. Well, and what I like that they did though with it is they don't really introduce the uncles to you.
No, no, as
Which
no, they're just there.
and you
This
kind
is
of just
Hub. This
catch
is Garth, and you learn as Walter learns.
right. So it's very much the story's being told from his perspective.
Right, right.
And so we
This movie
pretty
is a
much
flashback.
we pretty much grow along with Walter, with the character
Yes.
progression of Walter throughout the movie, which I appreciated.
And another fun fact: Haley Joel Osment. He was going through puberty during this filming, so they filmed it chronologically. So as his voice was changing throughout the time, it lined up right versus him sounding all squeaky in some scenes or sounding deeper in other scenes and having a mixed match. They like his voice is changing. We should film this in order.
Oh, well, that's very rare to film a movie chronologically.
It is.
But yeah, wow, they paid attention to I appreciate that they paid attention to continuity.
Yeah, so you can tell at the end of the movie his voice is a lot deeper than it was at the very start.
Right, because a lot of time does pass in the movie.
That too. So it makes sense that they would
It's a whole summer, I think.
collate. Yeah.
Yeah, very very cool. We cut to them gardening now,
Yes.
and yeah, that's what they're retired and retired people garden.
Yes.
If we keep active, we're gonna live to be 100. And I was like, well, you know what? Forget this. You live to be 100. I'm leaving. And he storms off, and some relatives show up.
Yes.
And
So they're not strangers to visitors. They just don't like them.
right, they pretty much they disappeared for 40 years, and then they come back and have a lot of money, and people know they have money, and so they're pretty much suspecting people are showing up at their door trying to get their hands on the money.
Yep. People out of the woodwork. That's why the salesmen keep coming by.
Yep.
Like these two old guys live out in the middle of nowhere and have money, and we're like, let's go see if they'll buy something.
Right, and then relatives, hey, your uncles just came back from 40 years of disappearance. I hear they have millions stashed. You
Yep.
should get in their you should get in their good graces so they'll leave it to you.
Yep.
Which is yeah, we get a good look at the relatives after
Putting in the
Garth
work.
goes back to the house. The other little family, it's my wife, husband, wife, and two little boys.
Yeah.
And they're very much make it clear that they are first in line for the money, or so they think, and they're not going to let this little kid weasel his way in, and they're going to
Yeah.
get rid of him real quick.
They know what Walt's trying to do. He's not going to get away with it.
Right. I mean, and it's very clear because we go back into the house, and I never caught the name of the husband. Guy, we'll call him Guy. I don't know.
Guy. Okay. Guy works.
And he's laying into the uncles pretty good about what the kid's up to and whatnot, and how they need to take the kid and drop him off at the orphanage because his mom ain't coming back for him. We know what she's like. And they catch him standing around the corner like, look at him, he's even sneaking around and eavesdropping. And just yeah, it's not good. It makes the kid feel unwanted, and so he takes off running down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not best pleased.
No. And so we shows him. He runs down. He makes it to a gas station,
Yeah.
and he calls up the college that his mom said she was gonna be at, which I'm pretty sure she was banking on the fact that the uncles didn't have a phone.
Yep. That's why she
And
couldn't call and warn them.
yeah, they don't have a phone, and so he's calling up the school, and mom's got a lot of names and aliases she's gone by
Yes.
because he's having the lady, the receptionist, I guess, check all these names because he's looking for his mom,
Yeah,
and
receptionist.
every
Maybe
single one of
admin.
them's admin. Yeah, every single one of them's a bust. And he's like, well, maybe it's somewhere because she just started. And the lady goes, no, it's impossible. Our classes started back in January. There's no way anybody would get in now.
Yeah.
And so the realization hits that once again his mom lied to him,
Yep.
and he has no idea where she's at, when she'll be back, or anything. And he's stuck with these people for the foreseeable future.
Yes. Yes. He is. Unless he wants to try and hike out of rural Texas.
Which is his plan, because it goes down to cuts to the next scene, and it's Hub and Garth are in the other dude's car,
Yeah.
driving down to the gas station, and they find him, and they start talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to Montana," and Hub's trying to talk him into it.
Yeah. They don't want him there, but they've got that. They do know, like, okay, we've got to find this kid. We can't just let him wander off.
Right. We got to give him some kind of
And I'm guessing it was their idea versus the family's idea because the family didn't want him around anyway.
right. And I have a feeling that it was more Garth. I
Yeah.
think Garth has warmed up to the kid more than Hub has at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, because the conversation, I mean, you can see the flip in the conversation of them supporting him going to Montana, and Hub's more like, "Hey, yeah, well, good luck in Montana, kid,"
Yeah.
and Garth's like, "Well, that's a long ways away. The kid's gonna need a good map," and Hub's like, "Well, I guess he is gonna need a good map." Yeah, I guess you're right there, and you can see, I mean, just the chemistry between Michael Caine and Robert Duvall, where they're shooting glances at each other behind the kid's back,
Yeah.
and they're kind of having their own I think it was great that they having their own dialogue while the three of them are just lined up. And I think Michael Caine, Garth eventually is like, it'd probably drive those relatives crazy if you stayed, and it'd probably run them off sooner if you were around. So maybe you could help us out and just stay for a little while, and we'll and once that situation's dealt with, then you can, we'll help you get to Montana or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
The
think
more diplomatic of the brothers.
right, and Walter, I think he kind of knows what they're up to, but is playing along with it as well because I don't think he really wants to be on his own in Montana.
Right. They've got
So he's like,
the silent understanding of
right, everyone's just kind
I
of
don't
going along.
yeah. I don't really want to be here. You don't really want me here, but we're gonna do it anyway. And maybe we kind of want to be together, but
Yeah, yeah. So everyone's just kind of playing into the ruse. So no one's admitting that they're going along with the situation.
yeah, yeah.
So they go back to the house, and we cut to the next day, and everyone's on the porch. And of course, the relative family brings up the money and the will, because they gotta do something with the money. They're not gonna be around forever, and where's it gonna go? And very, very obvious that they're just gold digging.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, we're worried about you. Where's your money going?
Pretty much. And then another salesman shows up, and he's he's like, "I got something for you." And he ducks behind the car. And this scene was great. I loved this. And he's got a handkerchief out, and he's a white flag, and he says, "Just hear me out. Just hear me out." And they're
He's been here before.
he's been there before. He's back. You get that from Hub, and they're loaded and ready to open fire.
Yep.
And he's like, "Put down your guns, and I'll come out." And Garth's like, "Oh, he's good. He knows what he's doing."
Yeah.
And that's when Walter steps up and he goes, "You know what? Hear him out. You got all this money, right? You're not gonna take it with you. You might as well spend it, or else what good is it just sitting there?"
And this salesman is played by an actor named Adrian Pastor, who was in Heroes for several seasons.
Okay, I never saw Heroes.
I recognized him. I'm like, what's his name? I know where he's from, but so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a fun little fact. I like that. And but yeah, so they listen to Walter a little bit and agree to hear the guy out, and he pulls out a skeet launcher,
Yep.
and he's like, I found the perfect thing for you. Just let me do one demonstration. You can see how cool this is and how easy this is to operate. I'll
Yep.
even let the kid here do it. And he loads a skeet disc
Yep.
and tells the kid to pull the lever. The kid pulls the lever, and he shoots the clay pigeon. And you see their eyebrows kind of go up, like, huh, that
Yeah.
is kind of cool. And then the money hungry family is like, that's the dumbest thing I ever seen. You take that, load that back up, and you get the heck out of here. To which Hub immediately responds, we'll take it, which is the start of a beautiful friendship between them and that one salesman.
Yes, because he figured it out.
He did, with a little help from Walter.
Yes.
I think Walter gets most of the credit here, but
This is
after
our
that,
this is our second movie with a skeet shooter.
this is the second movie in a row with a skeet
Yep.
shooter. Which happy accident, because I'm not overly familiar with this movie. I remember it being a one that I enjoyed a lot. So
You're not
we
planning
cut.
the next the next movie to tie in with the one before it with obscure references.
I might be. I've done pretty good at that thus far. With the mention of the
Exxon
SS the
Valdez.
Exxon Valdez and now skeet shooting.
Yep. Yep.
Could be. No, but we cut to them with their shotguns getting ready to for the kid to launch a clay pigeon, which it's taken him a little while to load that thing up, but by golly, he's doing it.
Yeah, yeah, the because the salesman had it all set up, so all I do is pull the lever and send it, but the pullback to get the tension on the disc is a little bit much for him. He can do it, but
Yeah. Well,
he's also
I
got
mean
like
the salesman did it. He loaded it up.
yeah, yeah. So that's why I said the salesman loaded it up the first time. So, but now he's doing it, and the tension on that is
Yeah.
a little
Oh,
bit
it's
much for him because he's tiny.
yeah.
And
He's
he's
a
got
weenie, remember?
yeah, got pot holders taped to his head
Yeah. This is great. Oh yeah,
or
they're
taped to his
just
ears so he can't
yeah,
help
as
with the sound.
earplugs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they spend the afternoon skeet shooting, and then we cut back to Walter, and once again he's in his room looking at the picture of Emmanuel Vaugier.
Yes.
And once again, Hub goes out to the water, and Walter follows him, and this time gets interrupted by Garth.
Yes. Yeah.
And
He tells him not to wake him.
yeah, don't wake him. He goes, I woke him up once, and he about bit my head off.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, what's he doing? And he goes, and Garth basically says he's looking for Jasmine. And Walter goes, who's Jasmine? And Garth replies with, the only woman he ever loved. And then we go into flashback story time as Walter convinces Garth to tell him the story of Jasmine. And so we go back to 1914.
So we have a flashback within a flashback.
Yes, basically we have a yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And we go back to the year 1914, where Hub and Garth go to Europe, and it's right around the time of the war, right when the Germans were getting there. And Hub's like, you know what? We'll go anyway. We'll just stay one step ahead of the Germans, which they do, but
Seems
they
like a
end
good
up,
place to be.
yeah, but they end up in a bar drinking with some soldiers and get too drunk, and they wake up the next day on a boat to Africa, and they're now part of the French Foreign Legion.
Yes.
Because
They were
yeah,
swindled.
they were intoxicated and swindled. They fought many battles. Hub saved Garth's life on many a time. Then the war ends. They part ways. Garth stays in Africa and leads a bunch of safaris. And Hub basically became a mercenary for hire
Yeah.
and had the reputation of being the one who could fight like 20 men. And that's about as far as into the story as we get before Hug wakes up. Hub wakes
Uncle
up.
Hug.
Yeah, no. Before Hub wakes up and says they're all nuts and what they doing out there at in the middle of the night and they need to go to bed.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the next day, and there's more gardening, and Hub brings out this chewing tobacco, gives a pinch to Garth, takes a pinch himself, passes a pinch to the kid. The kid's like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. So he takes a pinch, throws it in his mouth, and starts chewing it, then starts dying because it's awful. And Garth scolds Hub, and Hub's like, what?
You wanted it.
I offered it. Well, we didn't have to take, Clearly, one is more versed with kids than the other.
Yes.
But Walter is
Or at least, yeah, kids or interacting with people, kind of playing into the little bit of the backstory we just heard, where he did safaris and did like worked with
tourism.
people, bringing people who had to have that customer service versus Garth, who just kept killing.
Hub, Hub killed people.
Hub who just kept killing.
Right? Yeah, Hub who was killing people.
Yeah.
They're very very different backstories, and they did that for 40 years apparently.
Yeah.
But Walt is starting to fit in, and it
His own
shows
way,
him
yes.
in his own way. He's getting along. He's helping do work. He's getting the mail. That's what it shows him. He's down at the mailbox with the pig and dogs in tow, and he gets a letter from his mom, and he starts reading it, and she, oh yeah, here in San Antonio, school's going great, and he looks at the front of the letter where it's stamped and says Las Vegas. So
Yeah.
I don't know how dumb she thinks her kid is, but he's not.
Very.
Yeah.
She agreed with Hub at first. Yeah, he is a weenie. He's not gonna figure this out.
Yeah, no kidding. She doesn't give him nearly enough credit.
Uh-uh.
And then you get Hub and Garth walking out of the house in their matching overalls, flannel shirts, and hats.
Yep.
And he goes, what Garth's like, your clothes are on the bed, kid. And so all three of them have matching farming gardening outfits.
Yep.
And
They picked him up some overalls.
Yep. And their gardening's going pretty well. They got their rows all planted, starting to sprout. They got all their labels up. And Walter pauses and goes, what's in this row? So that's beets. What about that row? Tomatoes. There? Cabbage. Why do they all look exactly the same? And Hub's like, well, they definitely saw us coming. We got nothing but corn here. Which is hysterical.
The seed salesman.
The seed sales, which I didn't notice either until Walter started looking all confused at it, like it's all the same. And I'm like, wait a minute, those plants would all look different. Potatoes, yeah, they got cabbage, bok choy.
Yeah, bok choy, Chinese cabbage. Oh, okay.
Sure, lettuce, potatoes, yeah, all that. Nope, corn, nothing but corn. And I believe at this point, Garth and Hub wander off back to the house, and Walter stays behind, and then you see a giraffe head coming up the driveway. And that is a real giraffe. We get to find out what noise giraffes make.
Yes, because it makes a sound.
They do make a sound. They make a weird guttural grunting sound.
Something I can't quantify.
And I'm not going to try to mimic. Thanks for that. Then we discover that Hub and Garth bought a lion to hunt.
Yes.
And so they offload the lion, and they open up the crate, and
they tell Walter to open up the crate.
Sure. And they got guns pointed, and Walter opens up the crate to reveal the lioness, who is elderly and very tame.
Yes. Fun fact.
Go ahead.
Although the lioness in the movie was supposed to be elderly, this was a young lion playing the part.
I couldn't tell, but I'll take your word for it, because I'm sure younger lions are easier to work with.
Yep. And so when I mentioned earlier that they didn't think pigs needed handlers or trainers, the lion had a bunch of trainers and handlers to make sure it did what it was supposed to do, and no one thought about keeping an eye on the pig, and that's not why, but it's like, oh, the pig's attacking him. Go.
I keep picturing little Haley Joel Osment being attacked by a pig. And no one noticed. And they'll be like, oh, the pig's getting him.
or just him being nervous about the lion, like, that pig messed me up pretty good. But what's the lion gonna do? Like, no, we got people on the lion. We didn't have anybody on the pig. We didn't know we need to watch them pretty well.
Yeah, it's hysterical. But so Hub and Garth are pretty disappointed in their line, and they're like, well, whatever, and they walk away. And Walter's like, can I keep her? And they're like, sure, kid, keep her. And so he gets a line, and he names her Jasmine after the lady in the picture and the woman that Hub loved. And yeah, we find out Walter says that he named her Jasmine, and Hub storms off.
Yeah, he's not happy about it
And then we go to
because
the
that means
next day.
Walter's learning things.
Right, yeah. And he's asking questions, and Hub doesn't like questions. And so now we cut to the next day. They're going into town in the pickup, and we see them pull to a loading dock where they're picking up bags of Purina Lion Chow.
Ooh.
Which I don't know if you saw the bags. It literally says Lion Chow Purina.
Yeah. Purina Lion Chow. Yes, I laughed at that.
Yeah. I did too. And so Hub is throwing the 50-pound bags up over his shoulder and loading them up while Garth and Walter are tag teaming the bags.
Yep.
Pretty much leaving Hub to do all the work because he's that way, I guess. And they get I don't know, was it 50 bags loaded up roughly?
Something like that, yeah.
Like 2 pallets worth. And they're about to get in the truck, and Hub drops, and they go to the hospital.
Yes.
And so there's Garth and Walter are waiting, and we get a clip of this lady. She calls Walter over, and she goes, "Are you with those McCann brothers?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "I hear they're mafia hitmen that stole millions." He's like, "Okay, lady." Like, all right.
I mean, if they are, don't point it out.
Yeah, right. Oh, you're living with
I
them?
hear-
They're mafia hitmen.
I hear these people killed people a lot. Like, do ya? You think they want that around?
Thanks, lady. I probably would have been better off not knowing that if that were the case. So they're sitting there, and Walter's like, "Hey, tell me more of the story, because what else are we gonna do?"
Right. They just have to wait at this point.
Yeah. So Garth continues the story and talks about how Hub, during his mercenary work, he saved this princess or something, and she started telling her friends and another princess, I guess, was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I have to meet this guy." And so Hub's riding on the beach. We're back in a flashback now.
Yep.
Hub's riding on the beach, and another horse shows up, and they start racing, and then the horses collide with each other. Both the riders fall off. Hub pops up with knife ready because, as a mercenary, he doesn't really know what to expect. And she pops up, and their eyes meet. And once in a lifetime love at first sight is what Garth describes it as.
Aw.
But as the story goes, she's apparently promised to another, and when the sheik finds out, she's promised to a sheik.
Yes.
And once he finds out, he kidnaps her and locks her up. Hub storms the palace looking for his lady. He finds her, takes her out of there. They get married, live happily ever after. Walt's like, "Nope, that don't make no sense. Because if that were the case, where is she?"
Yeah. Yeah. Happily ever after. She's not here. He's not happy. This doesn't add up.
Yeah. But then Hub makes a scene, so everything just kind of gets squashed right there. Actually, I don't think he questions it yet. I think that comes later. He's about to question it, and then Hub makes a scene at the hospital, and they all leave.
Yes.
And for some reason they let Hub drive, or maybe Hub just decided he was going to drive home.
I think that was a Hub choice.
Yeah, and he's not going home though, because it's like home's back the other way, and he goes, "Well, I want to go this way."
Yep.
But we're going that way apparently.
He's driving, so.
And he's driving, so they pretty much don't have a choice. And then we cut back to the hospital, and the money-hungry relatives show up, asking about Hub, and the doctor's like, "Oh, he's gone." And there are dollar signs in their eyes. They're like, "Can we see the body?" And The doctor goes, "No, that's not what I meant. He checked himself out a while ago."
Those people are the worst.
They are pretty awful. And so,
It's like, oh, can we make sure? Can
yeah, let me see the body to make, just to make sure. And then we cut to them eating barbecue at a diner, it looks like, or a little barbecue joint.
yeah, it's like a little diner's a good one.
Yeah, why not? And we kind of start to get to some character growth and insight into Hub,
Yeah.
where he's talking about how he doesn't have anything to do. He's feeling useless and he doesn't like it. He's getting old, he's getting tired, and he doesn't want to feel useless.
Yeah.
And then a rowdy group of hoodlums show up and start hassling Hub.
Yep.
And Hub very loudly insults them.
Yes.
And the kid's like, "Hey, old man, who do you think you are?" And we get a very good introduction on exactly who Hub thinks he is. And I almost wanted to applaud after that because it was just a beautiful little speech.
Yes. Yeah, he's been in 2 wars.
Countless others on 3 continents and led men into battle with nothing more than swords all the way up to artillery. Got a couple other things and only loved one woman with the fire that burns hotter than a little ant like him would ever understand.
Yeah. No, he really laid into this guy.
Yeah, and Garth's kind of in the background, like, no. We get, Garth kind of walks off, and the kid's like, "All right, well, I'm gonna show you a thing or two, old man. Get your knives out." And him and the other three pull their knives out, and Garth comes up with gun, cocks his shotgun, and goes, "Now, this is how we're gonna play it," and kind of sets the rule. He goes, "You two are gonna fair fight, and then if that goes well, then I'll let the three of you join in."
Yeah.
And we kind of get this is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie because it's hysterical.
It's really good. I
Garth's
mean,
like, because Garth's like, "Don't hurt yourself, don't overdo it," and he's like, there's only 4 of them."
like, yeah, you were just in the hospital.
Yeah, because he goes, "Well, don't, they're just kids, don't kill them." Oh, fine. So him and the leader of the hoodlums kind of face off, and the kid lunges, blocks it, takes his knife from him. He goes, "No, no, no, you don't do that. You don't want to stab like that. You want to come in like this, all nice and smooth. Here, try it again," and throws the
Yeah.
knife back to him. The kid catches it, and Garth cuts to Garth and Walter, and Garth's like, "Oldest trick in the book." And so the hoodlum, comes at him again the way he showed him, and of course he sees that coming because he literally just told him to do it.
Right.
And so he grabs his arm, twists it, starts pulling it back, grabs the knife back, and starts just wrenching on this kid's arm. And the other guy's like, "Hey, you're gonna break his arm." And Garth's like, "Well, you better get in and help."
Yeah.
And so so we get a full brawl that kicks off, and uh, Hub's holding his own. You get some commentary from Walter, like, "Aren't you gonna get in there and help? There's 4 of them." And then you see one guy fly over the counter. He goes, "3."
Yeah.
And you get a
Yeah,
little,
he may be old, but he can still scrap.
yep. And then there's kind of fighting going on in the background, and Walter is watching, very pleased at seeing this, and you get some dialogue between him and Garth, and it's all funny.
Yeah, it's feeding into the mystique of the story he's been hearing about him being a war hero, a warrior,
Ever,
and fighting as many people as he had, and
yeah, yeah, it's lending some credibility to that tale. Yep. So Hub teaches them all a very, very good lesson. And we come back to the house where the money-hungry relatives have showed up, and nobody's home.
yes, because
And
they had to check and see what was going on because they thought he was dead, that he's not.
right, they
They
want to
want
get
their piece.
they want to get that money. Yeah. So no one's there, and the little kids see the crate, and they're, "Oh, what's that? I don't know. Let's destroy it," because they're just awful. And so they destroy it, and discover that there's a lion in there.
Yeah,
And the lion gets out and runs into the cornfield, and the kids run back to mommy and daddy with their
yep.
tails between their legs.
They panic. They let a lion loose.
Yeah. Which, can't say as I blame them on that. I would not be thrilled if I let a lion loose.
Nope, that's not something you hang out and see how it plays out.
Yeah, no, you kind of get out of dodge.
Yeah,
But it's at this point that Garth and Walter show up in the truck with Hub driving the hooligans back.
Yeah, they brought the hooligans back to the house.
Yep, because they need fixing up, I guess. Because Garth goes into the house and grabs meat and starts slapping it on the kids' faces where they got beat up.
Yep.
And then then they find out that Jasmine is out and living in the cornfield. And Walter's the first one to go, and they think that he's being attacked by the lion. So everybody, you got Hub, Garth, 4 hooligans, mom and dad, all with guns going in
Yeah, yeah,
after this
because
lion.
well, you see the lion come out of the corn and tackle him.
Right, yeah. And then drag him in.
Yeah.
So they all go in, and it turns out that Jasmine's just playing with Walter. They discover that
Yep.
yeah,
That they're having fun.
they're having fun. They're playing their buddies, and Walter comes out of the cornfield and runs into Hub, and he's like, "Oh, I can't get her to come out of the cornfield." And Hub says that it's probably because that's the closest thing to a jungle she's ever seen, and that's where she feels safe and at home and happy.
Yeah.
And Walter says, "You think she's happy?" And Hub goes, "Yeah. Are you happy, kid?" And he goes, "Yeah." So you get a little bonding between Hub and Walter. We start to see that growth happening,
Yes.
which I think so far has been very well done in the movie. I think
It
the
has.
character progressions for everybody has been very well done.
Yes, it has.
And so then we cut to Walter's back in the house, and Hub is given a speech to the hooligans, and Walt's like, "What is this about?" And Garth fills him in that Hub is giving them his "what every man needs to know" speech, and Walter's like, "Hey, do I get that?" And he's like, "Yeah, you will. If Hub's still around, you're definitely gonna get that speech. He'll give it to you one day, no problem." And then Walter
Yeah.
asks Garth to finish the story, and so we go back to the story where the Sheik finds out that Hub stole Jasmine, and he says, "No one disrespects me like that," so he puts a 10,000 gold piece bounty on Hub's head, and assassins are always tracking Hub down. And they
Yes.
realize that they can't run forever, and so Hub lets an assassin basically turn him in for the bounty. And
Mhm.
Walter's like, "No way, who would turn him in?" And Garth's like, "Well, I would." He goes, "Oh, it was a scam." And he goes, "Yep, it was." So he turns in Hub, he gets paid, and they take Hub down to the dungeon of 1,387 tortures, which is great. I laughed at that because then it cuts, then shows them down in there, and it shows like a sign that says to the left, tortures 1 through 1,100, and to the
Yeah.
right. And so they're down there, and it gets the plan is revealed, and Garth breaks out and fights all the people and saves Hub this time without dropping a single piece of gold, and Walter is not having that at all.
Yeah.
Is That's the unbelievable part of all the tale,
Yeah.
is that Garth fought anybody.
And didn't drop any of the gold.
I didn't drop any. I mean, I don't know. I think the gold part's moot at this point, but I think it's just the fact of like Garth beat anybody up.
Yeah.
So he recants and he's like, okay, so maybe Hub helped a little bit, and then it shows what really happened, and Garth didn't drop any gold, but Hub beat everybody up. And then later Hub tracks down the Sheik and surprises him in the middle of the night and basically lets him live and says, "I've held your life in my hand twice. If it happens again, it's mine." And so it reveals that the Sheik calls off all the hits and never bothers him again. And some say it was for fear that Hub would come and kill him in his sleep. Some say it was because of honor, that the Sheik did the honorable thing since Hub spared his life and
Yep.
let him and called it all off out of honor. And some say it was the fact that on the Sheik's land they found a whole bunch of oil and he became one of the richest men in the world. Who's to say what the truth is?
Who's to say? I feel like it may fall in all those categories, but
Probably. But so the Hub finishes his speech and he comes and sits down and talks more about how he's feeling useless and it won't be too long that the weenie here will be able to beat him up. And he's not dealing well with getting old and settling down
Yeah.
and not having a job or a purpose or anything. And so he says, "Yeah, forget it. I'm going to bed." And so Walt's like, "Well, tell me what happened to Jasmine," because he wasn't buying that they lived happily ever after.
Right.
And Garth's like, "No, you want to know how it ends? You gotta go ask Hub.
Yep.
It's not my place. It's not my story to finish. If you want to know, then you
He's over
gotta
there.
go.
Yep.
You gotta go figure it out. You gotta go man up and ask him." So we cut to the next day, and a delivery truck shows up with an airplane on it.
Yes.
Some assembly required on this airplane.
Yes, I was gonna say it airplane do it yourself set, basically.
Right, more like an airplane kit. It's got all the pieces, and I'm sure it has instructions, but
Uh,
maybe I don't know. But yeah, this is Hub's doing because Hub wants an airplane,
yep.
and there is a little bit of instruction because he opens up a booklet and he goes, pull the lever towards you to what,
Go down,
up.
up, push it away to go down or something.
Yep, pretty much. That's the gist of it. And so, we pretty much am unloading the plane pieces and whatnot, and Garth is not sure about this at all.
Yeah.
And then we got Hub down at the water again, and Walt comes out and wraps him up in a blanket, and then shoves him, wakes him up.
Yeah.
He's like, "What are you doing out here, kid?" And he pleads with him and says, "Hey, I have to know. I gotta know what happened to Jasmine. I've heard most of the story, but I don't know how it ends, and I need to know. I have to know." And so he doesn't really go into detail. He just says that they got married, and then she and the baby both died in childbirth.
Yeah.
And so from there, he went back to the French Legion and fought for 40 years of wars and mercenary work, and then came back here, and that's where we are. And we get a very touching, emotional moment from Walter as he tells Hub that he's got to stick around and be his uncle. He needs him, and Garth needs him, and Jasmine needs him, the lion Jasmine.
Right. Right.
And everyone needs him to stick around because he's got to be around to give him that speech and teach him how to be a man and all this stuff. And finally, Hub gives in. He's like, "All right, kid, fine. You win. I'll stay around." They getting ready to. This is where they, and then Hub wraps the kid up in the blanket and they go back in.
Oh.
Yeah, very very touching moment.
Yes.
And then we cut to the next day and they're eating corn. They're picking corn, then they're eating corn, and there is a lot of corn.
Well, they planted a whole field of corn thinking it was a whole
Mess
farm
of
worth of
vegetables,
vegetables. Yeah.
and it was nothing but corn. So
Worked out good for Jasmine.
it did. It did, yeah. They're eating their corn, and then we cut to them in a fishing boat, still using the guns.
Yeah.
They get one fish because they're up on top of it, and they shoot down into it and get them. And then,
Well, if you're happy fishing the way you fish.
yeah, if it ain't broke, right?
Exactly.
And then we cut to Walter in the tower, and he's looking at the photo of Jasmine still. And then he hears the front door open and looks out, and he sees Garth going out to the shed. And being the curious little Snoopy guy that he is, he follows Garth out there. And this
Yep.
is when we discover the stash of money, that they do have millions stashed.
Yes, and it's
Under-
it's stashed. I mean, it's
It's under the barn.
yeah, it's hastily shoved into the space because it's lying everywhere.
Right. And so, yeah, Garth gets out, what is it, like 3 stacks of hundreds
Yeah, 3 or 4.
and leaves. And Walter goes down there to check it out, and he's kind of looking around and looks up at the dogs and the pig.
Yep, they all followed him.
Yep. And he's like, does this money look stolen to you?
Kinda.
Yeah. Yes, it does. That money looks very stolen to me.
Yes.
Stolen. But that's about all we get from there.
Yeah, it cuts from that point.
It cuts from there, and we see them. We get this little snippet of a scene where they're all just kind of sitting on the front porch, and Walter's kind of side-eyeing them.
Yeah,
Oh,
not sure
I did.
to bring it up or
Right, yeah, and I did miss a point. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit
okay.
because during the speech with Walter and Hub by the water at the night, um, we do get some important dialogue where Walter asks Hub if the stories. He's like, "The stories about you, they're true, right?"
Mm,
And Hub's like, "That doesn't matter." And he goes, "Yes, it does. Everyone's lied to me my whole life. I need something to be true." And then Hub comes back with you don't need anything to be true. You just need to believe in things that could be true. So the important things, that people are generally good, that true love is possible, and that love conquers everything, and that things will work, good will always prevail over evil, and that
yeah.
kind of thing. Gives him this nice speech on a necessity of truth over, or a necessity of belief over necessity of truth. That comes up here in a little bit.
Yes.
But okay, so yeah, now then we're dead, money, porch, awkward, rapid fire. And then it's the middle of the night. I think it's the middle of that same night with the awkward porch
Yeah.
incident. Incident, I guess. I mean, they're just sitting on the porch and Walter's a little awkward. And that night, a car shows up and it's Mommy and Stan. Guy
Yes.
named Stan. Stan is a detective.
Stan is yes, Stan's a detective.
He shows his badge
Yes.
and the uncles are asleep and Mommy and Stan don't want to wake the uncles, and so they bring Walter outside to talk to him, and Stan says that the uncles are bank robbers from the 20s and 30s and they stole a whole bunch of money,
Yep.
and you need to tell us where it is because we're just, since it's stolen, they're not entitled to it and we can just take it as much as we want. So they're
Right.
clearly after the, yeah, their logic is like, oh no, we won't send him to jail. We'll just take a cut of it to keep our silence, basically.
Yeah.
And so
Which
they're
is
they're swinging, but they're making no good points whatsoever.
no. And Walter or Walt's not buying it.
No. Well, and Walter's bonded with them,
Right.
and so he doesn't want to believe the story. And you can see he's putting the pieces together,
Yeah.
which it's starting to make sense. But how much of it is true? Is it true? Is it not true? I don't know.
Yeah.
How much of the details of who these people are was fed to Stan from Mommy, because she showed up and she saw them, shooting stuff with shotguns and whatnot. So she does know them a little bit. And so, they could have fabricated the whole story, but Walter's not selling them out. And so Stan says, "Why don't we take a walk and discuss this man to man?"
Yeah.
And so they go for a walk, and Stan starts showing his true colors. Or no, so Walt's not buying it that they're bank robbers, and then it
Right.
finally clicks in his head, and that's where we reference back to the talk he had with Hub the night before, where belief over truth, and Walter's like, they couldn't have been bank robbers. It couldn't have been them. They've been spent the last 40 years in Africa doing safaris and mercenary work with the Foreign Legion and whatnot.
Yep.
So the story doesn't add up. They were nowhere near Las Vegas.
Yeah. He's choosing to believe the stories that the story
He's
that Garth told him.
he's believing in his uncles. And that's then from there, that's when we get, Mommy's like, "What? You're choosing to believe that over the truth?" And he happily, "Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the story and I'm sticking to it. That's what I know. That's the truth." And then Stan is like, "Oh, well, let's go take a walk and talk about this man to man." And then they go over to the barn, and that's where Stan reveals his true colors of he's made a lot of enemies and he has a bunch of people that he needs to pay off, and that's why he needs the money.
Yeah.
And I can either be your best friend or your worst enemy. Which is it gonna be? And Walter just kind of smiles and then kicks him square in the misters and runs off.
Yeah.
And so he's running off, and Stan recovers, chases him, tackles him, and starts just smacking him.
Yeah. Yeah. Stands over it and he's showing his true colors and
And he's gonna
beating the
beat
heck
his
out of
way.
him.
Yeah, he's gonna beat the heck out of this kid till he gets what he wants. However, he was not prepared for the lion in the cornfield behind him,
No, he was not.
which is
And
great because the lion. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and the lion doesn't like his friend getting beaten up.
That's right. And so the lion charges, Jasmine charges, and you see him hear it. He looks back, sees the lion coming, turns back, and then goes, "Wait a minute, there's a lion coming after me."
Right, the double take of, "What? Wait, I just saw a lion."
Because it's so far fetched. Like, well, you wouldn't expect a lion to come out of a cornfield.
Right.
Yeah. And so the lion starts mauling Stan,
Yes.
which creates a ruckus, and everyone runs over.
The brothers have
And
their guns.
the brothers got the guns, and Jasmine dies.
Yeah. Just kinda
And
keels over
just kind of keels over and dies. And we get this very,
on top of Stan.
yeah. Well, and then Walt kind of pulls her off and is kind of cradling her. And you get a very sad moment of, him kind of asking what happened. And they explain that, she was just old. Her heart gave out in the excitement. And he's like, Walt looks down and goes, "She looks like she's smiling." And to which I think it's Garth responds with, "Well, I think she is, because she died doing what she loved, protecting her cub."
Yeah.
That's a very, very sad, touching moment. And then they bury her. It cuts to they get Stan. Stan needs to go to the hospital.
Yeah, the she, I think it's Garth it gets there first, like, "Oh, it's dead." And the mom freaks out, like, "Stan's dead?" Like, "No, no,
No, but the lion, not Stan. He should
no, the
go.
lion,
Although he
he'll
should
be
go to a
okay."
hospital.
Yeah, although she go to a hospital.
So it's implied that mommy takes Stan to the hospital, and they all go to bed, and then we cut to the next day
Yep,
to Garth, Hub, and Walter burying Jasmine in the cornfield.
yep,
And then it cuts again to Walter waiting at the front porch for his mom, and she shows up, gets out. He stands in there just in like a full body cast in the passenger side. And she asks if
yep,
Walter is all packed, and he says he is. And she goes, "Well, I don't see your suitcase." And he goes, "Oh, it's in my room."
yeah.
So, which,
He's
pretty
being
clear
yeah, he's
he doesn't want to go.
yeah,
And then the uncles come out while Walter and Mom go inside to get Walter's things. And Hub starts giving Stan the what every man needs to know speech.
yeah,
First he grabs him by the nose and shakes it.
yeah. Just putting that little point on it.
Right. And so Walter grabs his stuff and they're getting ready to leave, and the uncles they're getting ready to say their goodbyes, and the uncles tell the mom that Stan is not someone that should be around her son.
Yeah,
And she agrees. She's, yep, I'm just gonna drop him back off in Las Vegas, and then we're out on our own. And you get a kind of a long goodbye from Walter and the uncles.
yep,
And he says, "You still need to give me that speech." And Hub says, "I'll be here whenever you need it." And they hug, calls him a good boy.
yep. Touching moment.
Yeah, a very touching moment where you could tell that they have bonded with the kid, but they don't really know what to do
Right.
with that. And he gets in the car, Walt gets in the car, and they all take off and start driving down the road.
And then we get Garth's solution.
Garth has a few
Yeah.
solutions. Want to share any of them?
Where he's talking to Hub's no, no, not Garth. Hub Solutions. He's talking to Garth, where he's like, he shouldn't be with her. He should be with us. Could we get a lawyer? Or we've got money. Maybe we can buy the kid.
Which I don't think he was very far off with buying the kid.
No, I think that would have worked just fine
Yeah, right.
based on how his mother is. I think that would have worked out perfectly.
Yeah, it would have, I think. And it wouldn't have taken a whole lot.
No.
But so they're driving down the road, and Walt asks Mom where they're headed, and she says, "I told you, Las Vegas." And Walt says, "No, Afghanistan." And it's revealed that Mom has no intentions of dropping off Stan. That was just a lie.
Yes.
And Walt is so over it at this point. Walt is so over it that as soon as he hears that, he opens up the door and jumps out of a moving vehicle.
Yes. He does wait till they're over the bridge so he doesn't hit the bridge, but yeah, he
Well,
lands in the
right.
grass, tucks and rolls, and
He's not stupid.
nope. No, he's
And
not.
he's
He's
and
learned.
he's yep, and he starts heading back towards the uncle's house.
A very not weenie-ish thing to do.
Right, jump out of a car. Yeah, he's grown.
Yes.
He is a completely different kid than the beginning of the movie. And so his mom stops and chases him down, and Walt just starts telling her off, standing up for himself and being like, no. And finally says to her, finally tells her to do something that's best for him for once in her life.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to explain what it is. We all know what it is. And
Yep.
we cut back to the uncle sitting on the porch, and it shows Walter, we call him Walt, shows
Yeah.
Walter walking up the driveway. And like my first thought with this was like, she really made that boy walk all the way back. She couldn't have
Yeah.
gone and dropped him off.
Nope. Part of me thinks too. He said, "Just give me my stuff and I'll go back."
That might be like we just let me get my bag.
Yep. Do this for me. Bye, mother.
Yeah, or maybe it went different. Maybe he's like that. Maybe he was just like, "There's no way I'm getting back in that car because I don't trust you."
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows? So yeah, he's walking up the driveway, and he stops at the front porch, and he's like, "All right, if I'm gonna live here, there's gonna be some changes that are gonna need to be made here."
Yeah.
The uncles are like, "What? Who is this kid?" And he's like, "First of all, you guys need to stay alive at least until I'm done with high school, preferably college.
Yes. You guys need to be
And
around. I don't
you
want to
guys
be
need to be
sad.
around. Yeah. And you guys are gonna start taking better care of yourself, more vegetables, less meat." And I don't remember the whole list, but he spouts off this laundry list of what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
And then they all walk into the house, and we move back to present day, and the phone's ringing again.
Yep.
And we're back to where we started off the movie,
Yes.
where hey, it's the sheriff. We got some bad news about your uncle. They passed away.
Yep.
It was quick. They didn't suffer, and they died together. But you need to come to the house because you don't believe this if you don't see it.
Yeah.
And
We also get a look around Walter's area, where he's at his office.
yeah, and start seeing he makes comics. We start seeing that
Yeah.
he's got
He
comics.
and it's draw. Yeah. He does probably it's like a comic strip in the paper or something.
Right. About his childhood growing up with the uncles.
Yeah. Yeah. You see the line. You see him on it. You see all the dogs, the house.
Yeah. Well,
That's
yeah,
where
because you
he's
see
drawing his.
because it shows the picture of his comic of the house, and
Yeah.
then that's what fades into him pulling up to the house.
Yep.
And the sheriff's there waiting for him and takes him around back to the barn, and you see the plane upside down sticking out of the front of it. And the sheriff goes, far as I can tell, they were trying to fly through the barn upside down.
Yeah.
Because of course they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
Walter gets a little smile at that.
yeah, as you can tell they were just living their life to their fullest.
Yep.
Um,
And then he says, "Oh yeah, and they left a will," and gives
yeah.
him the will, and he reads it out loud, and it says, "The kid gets it all. Just plant us." It said, and then after that it says, "Just plant us in the cornfield with the stupid lion."
Yeah.
And I get a little chuckle out of Walter, and
Yeah.
then a helicopter shows up.
Yeah, the sheriff mentioned that the news crews had been by earlier,
Right. Yeah, sets that up.
because it's not every day that two 90-year-old men die in a plane crash when neither of them had licenses to fly a plane. What is it's not every day that two 90-year-old men die in a plane crash in a World War I plane or
World
a
War II bomber or something.
World War One biplane with no pilot's licenses.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
he just figured it out and they flew.
they just did what they did, and so yeah, the helicopter shows up and lands, and this man and his son get out, and him and Walt get to talking, and it turns out that he says, yeah, my grandfather used to tell me stories. He was a sheik and told me stories about these two brothers that um, put him through heck,
Yeah,
basically.
they were his biggest adversaries.
Yeah, biggest, most respected adversaries he puts in out there. And Walt kind of smiles and he goes, "And how did you know him?" And he goes, "They raised me."
Yeah.
And the son's like, "Really? From great grandpa's stories, the two men they really lived?" And you get Walter kind of smiles and you get some flashbacks. And he says, "Yeah, yeah, they really lived," implying that they didn't just exist, but they
Right.
lived their life fully
Yeah. Yeah.
all the way to the end. And then we do a quick flashback to when Walter comes back home and goes into the house with the uncles, and we roll credits.
You you missed the one part where the guy who showed up in the helicopter is like, "Looks like they put my grandfather's money to good use," and you see a yacht in their pond.
That's right. Yes, I just wanted you to have that part.
A call back to Overboard. It looks similar.
Well, I didn't put that on my notes because I'm like, I'll remember a yacht in the pond.
Yeah. But it's like, "It looks like they put my grandfather's money to good use."
He said that there's
Just
a yacht
yeah, yacht. Yep.
in the pond. And
I'm
then
guessing
okay,
the salesman came back at some point.
that he that they made that salesman a rich, rich man.
Yes.
But yes, roll credits, and then we get lovely credits where it shows snippets of the comic book that Walter
Yes. Yes,
does.
I it's not a real comic at all, but I think it would be awesome to see a comic with the adventures of little Walter, the lion, the dogs, and just living on the farm.
Yeah. After the movie ends, have like a little comic book of him growing up.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That would have been fun. Maybe we'll write a letter
Yeah.
20 years later.
Yeah, do this. Like,
Do this
no.
do this now.
Do
We
this thing
watched it
for us.
for us because we did a podcast about your movie and we decided that we wanted this.
Oh,
All right. So, final thoughts time. And
yep.
why don't you kick us off? I'm really curious because this was your first time watching the movie.
It was my first time watching this movie. You mentioned it was one of Grandma's favorite movies, and I can see that. This seems right up her alley. And I love the movie. I'm surprised I hadn't seen it afterwards. Like, man, why haven't I seen this sooner? I kept hearing good things about it from I think Grandma before she passed, and then Mom and Dad said, well, Mom, Dad doesn't really suggest movies, but
Fair.
Mom's like, you need to see this, and you need to see this. Dad's like, uh huh. Love you, Dad.
Just gonna let you hang on that one.
Okay. No, no, cut that. No, don't cut it. Leave it in.
I
But
will.
yeah, no, I I really enjoyed it. I like the story. I like the flashback within the flashback within the flashback. It was a fun storytelling and a good heartwarming family story. Basically, I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I picked it.
True.
No,
Very true.
I've actually I wanted to do this movie for the podcast a couple times now, and I just finally got to it. I wanted to do it earlier and um, kind of picked other movies instead. But this is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately it's a movie that I forget about often.
Yeah.
We watched it. Rachel and I watched it with mom and dad when we were staying with them when we moved out this way. And Rachel didn't really care for it the first couple times she watched it.
Oh yeah.
She's like, it's okay. I guess maybe it's more of a boy movie. And I go, I don't think so. And so when we watched it together last night, in preparation for today. And she said the after we just watched it last night. After that, she's like, I really enjoyed that a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And like I loved everything about it. And
Yeah.
I have since the first time I watched it. I loved the comedy in it. I loved that it wasn't it seemed very relatable. And one of the things that Rachel said she didn't like about it was like the story that the uncles tell is kind of far-fetched and unbelievable. And yeah, it's exaggerated and it's played up and you never really know how much of it is true and how much of it is
Right.
is is made up. But as far as stories go, though, I mean, it's kind of just their character, and it's kind of just meant to be fun.
Right. Well, I mean, and then for the time period in the 30s and um, 30s and 40s when they were in Africa doing this stuff, that type of adventure stories and things like that were big. You had people going to Africa. There was campaigns over there. There's just wars and stuff happening.
Yeah,
Safaris. It
yeah,
definitely far some exaggerations, but definitely what soldiers and people were doing back then too.
right. Yeah, I mean, I think it was like it was supposed to be a mostly true story with exaggerations and
Yeah.
hints of tall taleness. But yeah, great family film. One I highly recommend.
Hmm.
Sit down with your kids and watch. You'll
Yeah.
laugh.
Very
You'll
good movie. I
very good
I,
movie
I
all
liked it a
around.
lot. I'm glad you picked it and got it on my radar. It was something I've seen now.
Yeah. Is it gonna go into the movie rotation?
Yeah, yeah, I'll watch this again. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, I definitely will. We'll watch it multiple times.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that leads us into Marshall telling me what I'm gonna be watching next.
Yes. Well, I was thinking of a movie. I had a couple in mind that I was leaning towards, but this one stood out. It's got several actors in it that we haven't had on the podcast before, or haven't had in movies on the podcast before, which is great. It gives us a new direction to go. Actually, I think there's one repeating actor in this movie.
Okay.
It's from the '90s. We're going back, and we're going to Steven Spielberg's well.
Okay.
That could be several things, but for this movie, we are taking a trip to Never Never Land, and we're gonna watch Hook with
Oh,
Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, Julia Roberts, and Bob Hoskins,
okay.
and the kid from What About Bob?
Ah, yes.
There's our duplicate actor, but
I was like, who
um,
repeats in that?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked Hook a lot growing up. It put a different spin on the as what did Lily say? An epilogue to the Peter Pan story.
Okay.
Epilogue? Yeah, yeah, epilogue. It's just um, a fun adventure movie, and we get to see Robin Williams do Robin Williams stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. First Robin Williams movie of the podcast too, and it's gonna be 14 episodes in. Wow.
Yep, yep. So,
All right. Yeah, I think I have a copy of that too.
um,
But
but
yeah.
yeah,
Well, that wraps up today's episode. Thank you for coming along with us as we take a look at Secondhand Lions. We look forward to you joining us for our next episode where we will be watching and talking about Hook. If you would like to reach out to us at all, you can do so via email, watchitbropodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at watchitbropod or Facebook or Instagram with the same handle. Our intro and outro music was provided by Nihilor, that intro being Grace, that outro being Haven. And as always, thank you for watching.